Snow swirled violently outside the frosted panes of the Iron Ridge Courthouse, turning the Wyoming Territory into a white, frozen wasteland. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of unwashed bodies, tobacco, and fear. Lin Wei pressed her 4-month-old daughter, Mai, tighter against her chest, her knuckles white as she gripped the rough fabric of her tunic. She kept her head down, staring at her worn boots, trying to make herself invisible. But in this room, she was the center of attention. To the 40 men packed into the makeshift auction hall, she was a curiosity. A Chinese widow left destitute after a mining accident took her husband, Chen, and left her with nothing but debt she couldn't pay and a baby she couldn't feed. Order? Judge Holloway's gavel cracked like a pistol shot. Next lot. One female, native of Canton, aged roughly 22. Skilled in cooking and laundry. Infant included. Sale is final to satisfy the debts of the deceased Chen Wei. Opening bid is $10. Lin's stomach churned. $10. That was the price of a used saddle. A murmur rippled through the crowd. I'll give you 12, a voice called out. It was murky work, buying a human being, even under the guise of indentured labor, but the law in Iron Ridge was whatever Judge Holloway said it was. 15, countered a man near the front. It was Boss Higgins, the proprietor of the Golden Nugget Saloon. He turned, his eyes raking over Lin with a look that made her skin crawl. I need a girl for the back rooms. The baby can sleep in the cellar. Lin's breath hitched. She looked up, her dark eyes frantic. Please, she whispered, though she knew no one cared. She is just a baby. $20. Higgins bellowed, grinning at the crowd. Going once. 30, a rasping voice called from the back. An older miner, smelling of gin. 40, Higgins shot back, annoyed. Don't waste my time, old man. Lin closed her eyes. $40. She was going to the saloon. She knew what happened to women in places like that. She held Mai closer, whispering a silent apology to her daughter for bringing her into such a cruel world. 50 going once, the judge droned. To Mr. Higgins. $100. The voice was low, gravelly, and cut through the noise like a knife. The room fell instantly silent. Heads turned toward the back of the room where a man stood in the shadows of the doorway. He stepped forward, shaking snow from a heavy, black duster coat. He was tall, lean as a whip, with a 2-day stubble darkening a jaw made of granite. But it was the gun belt tied low on his hips, and the way his hand rested near the pearl handle of a Colt revolver, that made the breath catch in everyone's throat. It was Cole Riker. A whisper ran through the room. The gunman. The Reaper. He was a man who sold violence to the highest bidder, a man who had killed more men than most in the room had met. 100. Judge Holloway stammered, adjusting his spectacles. Mr. Riker, this is a domestic auction. This woman. 150, Cole said, his voice flat, devoid of emotion. He walked down the center aisle, his spurs chiming softly. The crowd parted for him like the Red Sea. He stopped before the bench, ignoring Higgins, ignoring the crowd, his ice-blue eyes fixed solely on the judge. Do I hear a counterbid? Higgins opened his mouth, looked at the gun on Cole's hip, and closed it. He sat down. Going once. Going twice. Sold to Cole Riker for $150, the judge said quickly, eager to end the tension. Cole pulled a heavy leather pouch from his coat and tossed it onto the judge's desk. The coins clattered loudly. He turned to Lin. Up close, he was terrifying. A scar ran through his left eyebrow, and his eyes were hard, unflinching. Let's go, he said. Lin didn't move. She couldn't. Her legs felt like lead. Cole sighed, a sharp exhale through his nose. He took off his heavy duster, revealing a black vest and a white shirt underneath. He draped the massive coat over Lin's shoulders. It was heavy, warm, and smelled of tobacco, gunpowder, and horses. The baby's cold, he said, his voice softer now, though still rough. Wrap her up. We have a long ride. He didn't grab her arm. He didn't push her. He simply turned and walked out into the blizzard, expecting her to follow. Clutching the coat that swallowed her small frame, Lynn looked at the hostile faces in the crowd, then down at Mai. She had no choice. She hurried after the gunslinger, into the whiteout. The ride was brutal. The snow fell in sheets, erasing the world. Lynn sat on the bench of a covered buckboard wagon, Mai bundled beneath layers of wool and the heavy duster. Cole rode a massive black gelding alongside the wagon, his hat pulled low against the wind. He hadn't spoken a word since they left town. Lynn watched him through the driving snow. Why would a man like Cole Riker, a man who killed for a living, spend a fortune on a widow and a child? Was he looking for a servant? A wife? Or something worse? After 3 hours, they turned off the main road, the wagon wheels crunching through deep drifts. A small but sturdy cabin came into view, flanked by a barn and a corral. Smoke curled from the chimney. "Get inside," Cole barked over the wind as he dismounted. "I'll see to the horses." Lynn stumbled into the cabin. It was sparse, masculine, and clean. A fire burned in the hearth. Someone had been here recently to stoke it. An older Mexican man emerged from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a rag. "Javier," Cole said, entering behind Lynn with the supplies. "This is Lin Wei. And the baby is Mai." Javier's eyes widened, but he nodded respectfully. "Senor Riker. You actually did it." "I did," Cole said, hanging his hat on a peg. He turned to Lynn. "Javier helps me with the horses. He stays in the bunkhouse. You and the girl take the bedroom. I'll sleep out here." Lynn stood by the fire, shivering. "Why?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Why did you buy us?" Cole paused, his back to her. He looked at the flames, his expression unreadable. "Because that courthouse is no place for a child. And Higgins is a pig." "But I am Chinese," Lynn said, lifting her chin. "In this territory, that makes me less than nothing to most. Why do you care?" Cole turned. His eyes were tired. "I don't care where you're from. I care that you were alone." He pointed to the bedroom door. "There's a cradle in there. I made it. It might be rough." Lynn walked to the door and looked inside. A simple wooden cradle sat near the bed. It was sanded smooth, crafted with obvious care. Tears pricked her eyes. A killer didn't build a cradle. "Thank you," she whispered. "Rest," Cole said gruffly. "We'll talk tomorrow." The weeks that followed were a strange, quiet dance. Lynn took over the household duties, cooking, cleaning, mending. She worked with a ferocity born of gratitude and fear. She wanted to prove she was worth the money, worth the safety. Cole was a ghost in his own home. He left before dawn to check the perimeter and tend to the horses he raised, fast, strong animals that he sold to the cavalry. He returned at dusk, ate the meals Lynn prepared in silence, and spent his evenings cleaning his guns by the fire. He was polite, but distant. He never touched her, never raised his voice. But Lynn noticed things. She noticed how he checked the locks on the doors 3 times a night. She noticed how he sat with his back to the wall, eyes scanning the windows. He was a man expecting war to arrive at his doorstep. One evening, a month after her arrival, Lynn found Cole in the barn. He was shirtless, trying to wrap a bandage around his ribs. A jagged, angry bruise bloomed across his side. "Let me," Lynn said, stepping out of the shadows. Cole flinched, his hand instinctively going to the pistol on a crate nearby. When he saw it was her, he relaxed, though his jaw remained tight. "Just a kick from a green colt. It's nothing." "It is not nothing." Lynn took the bandage from his hand. Her fingers were cool against his hot skin. As she wrapped him, she saw the map of violence on his body, old bullet wounds, knife scars. "You are not just a rancher," she said softly. "No," Cole admitted, staring at the barn floor. "I was a regulator. A bounty hunter. I did bad things for money, Lynn. Things that stain a soul. And now? Now I'm trying to be something else. He looked at her, and for the first time, his guard dropped. Years ago, I was hired to protect a family. A widow and her son. I failed. They died because I wasn't fast enough. When I heard about the auction, when I saw you holding that baby, you saw a chance to save them, Lynn finished. I saw a chance to save myself, Cole corrected. Selfish. It is not selfish to save a life, Lynn said firmly. She tied the bandage and stepped back. You are a good man, Cole Riker. Whether you believe it or not. Cole looked at her, and the air between them shifted. It wasn't just gratitude anymore. It was recognition. Two broken people trying to mend each other. The peace shattered 2 days later. Lynn was hanging laundry in the crisp winter sun when 3 riders appeared on the ridge. Cole was in the corral, breaking a horse. He saw them instantly. He vaulted the fence and was at Lynn's side in seconds, his hand hovering over his gun. Get inside, he ordered. Take my. Go. Lynn ran to the cabin, grabbing the baby, but she watched from the window. The riders approached slowly. The leader was a man Lynn recognized, Bartholomew Gantry. He was a wealthy landowner from Iron Ridge, a man who owned half the town and the sheriff. He was flanked by 2 hired guns. Riker! Gantry shouted, reining in his horse. You're a hard man to find. I wasn't hiding, Cole said, standing in the yard, his stance wide and relaxed. What do you want, Gantry? I want what's mine, Gantry smiled, a cruel twisting of lips. Harold Chen owed me $300 for mining equipment before the tunnel collapsed. He died intestate. By law, his assets cover his debts. That includes his household. I bought his widow at public auction, Cole said, his voice dropping an octave. Debt paid. You paid the court fees, Gantry corrected. But I have a lien that predates the auction. Judge Holloway made a mistake. He didn't check the records. I have a writ here for the repossession of the estate's assets. That means the woman. Cole spat into the snow. She's not a wagon, Gantry. She's a person. She's a distinct asset, Gantry sneered. And she's worth a lot more than $300 to the railroad crews. Now, hand her over, or pay the debt plus interest. $500. I don't have $500, Cole said. Then I take the girl. Gantry signaled his men. They moved their hands to their coats. In a blur of motion, Cole drew. 2 shots rang out, cracking the frozen air. Gantry's men yelled as their hats were blown clean off their heads. They hadn't even cleared leather. Next ones go between the eyes, Cole said. Smoke curled from the barrel of his Colt. Get off my land. Gantry's face went pale, then red with rage. He wheeled his horse around. You're making a mistake, Gunslinger. I'll be back with the sheriff. You can't shoot the law. You have until tomorrow noon. They rode off, snow kicking up behind them. Cole holstered his gun, his hands shaking slightly. He turned and strode into the house. Lynn was standing by the table, clutching her leg. They will come back, Lynn said, her voice steady despite her fear. I know, Cole said. He began pacing. I have about 200 saved. It's not enough. We can run, Lynn suggested. In this weather? With a baby? You'd freeze before we hit the pass. Cole slammed his hand on the table. Gantry owns the sheriff. If they come back with a warrant, and I shoot them, I hang. And you go to Gantry anyway. He looked at her, desperation in his eyes. I promised I'd keep you safe. I swore it. Lynn looked at this man, this dangerous, violent man who had treated her with nothing but honor. She thought of Chen, her gentle husband, and how the world had crushed him. She realized that to survive in this land, she needed more than gentleness. She needed iron. There is a way, Lynn said quietly. Cole stopped pacing. What? The law says a husband's debts pass to his widow's estate, Lynn said, recalling the bitter lessons of the last few months. But if I am no longer Chen's widow? If I belong to another family? The claim is void against me personally. Cole stared at her. Lynn. Marry me, she said. The silence in the cabin was deafening. The fire crackled. Lynn, you don't know what you're saying, Cole said softly. I'm a killer. I'm a man with a price on his head in 3 states. You deserve a good life. A gentle life. I deserve a safe life, Lynn countered. She stepped closer to him. You said you would be a protector. Be a husband. Be a father to my. If we are married, legally, before Gantry returns, his claim on Chen's asset is challenged. I become Lynn Riker. My debts become your debts, yes, but they cannot repossess a wife like a piece of furniture. It's dangerous, Cole said, though his eyes were searching hers. If we do this, there is no going back. You are tied to me. To my name. To my enemies. I am already tied to you, Lynn whispered. You bought my life in the snow. Now let me choose to give it to you. Cole looked at her for a long moment. He saw the strength in her, the steel spine beneath the silk. He reached out and, for the first time, cupped her cheek. His thumb brushed her skin, rough against smooth. I have nothing to give you but a hard life, he said. Then we will live it together, she replied. Javier! Cole roared. The old man ran in from the bunkhouse. Patron! Saddle the horses. Ride to town. Find Father Callahan. Tell him if he doesn't get here by dawn, I'll burn his confessional down. Cole paused. Tell him we're getting married. The ceremony took place by the light of the fireplace as the first grey light of dawn touched the snow. Father Callahan, a nervous man who knew better than to argue with Cole Riker, performed the rites. Javier stood as a witness, beaming. Lynn wore her best tunic, cleaned and pressed. Cole wore a dark suit he hadn't touched in years. When he slid the simple gold band, his mother's ring, onto Lynn's finger, his hand didn't shake. I, Cole, take you, Lynn. His voice was gravel and conviction. To be my wife. To protect and to cherish. I, Lynn, take you, Cole, she answered, her dark eyes shining. To be my husband. I now pronounce you man and wife, Father Callahan said quickly. Now, please, Mr. Riker, may I go before the shooting starts? Go, Cole said. He handed the priest a gold coin. As the door closed, Cole turned to Lynn. They'll be here soon. I am ready, Lynn said. Lynn, Cole said, taking her shoulders. I know this is a strategy. I know you did this to survive. But I meant the vows. Lynn looked up at him. So did I. Noon brought the sound of many horses. Cole walked out onto the porch, his rifle in hand. He stood tall, the wind whipping his coat. Lynn stood beside him, in a sling across her chest. She refused to hide this time. Gantry rode into the yard, triumphant. Beside him was Sheriff Miller, a man with shifting eyes and a weak chin, and 6 deputies. Time's up, Riker! Gantry shouted. Sheriff, serve the warrant. Seize the woman. Sheriff Miller cleared his throat. Cole Riker, I have a writ here for the property of the estate of Harold Chen. You are ordered to surrender the woman known as Lin Wei. There is no Lin Wei here, Cole said calmly. Gantry laughed. Don't play games. She's standing right next to you. This is Lynn Riker, Cole said. My wife. Silence fell over the yard. The wind howled through the pines. Bullshit, Gantry spat. He's lying. Show them, Lynn, Cole said. Lynn raised her left hand. The gold ring caught the sunlight. We were married this morning, Sheriff. Father Callahan performed the rites. The certificate is on the table inside. Cole stepped forward, his eyes locking onto the sheriff's. You know the law, Miller. A wife is not a chattel to be seized for a dead man's debt. Her status has changed. She is under my protection, legally and morally. It's a trick! Gantry screamed, his face turning purple. He did it to cheat me. Arrest him. Kill him. I wouldn't do that, Cole said, his voice dropping to that terrifying, flat tone. He racked the lever of his Winchester rifle. Because if a single hand touches my wife, I will kill every man standing in this yard. And I will start with you, Gantry. The deputies shifted uneasily. They looked at Cole, the legend, the killer, and then at Gantry. They were paid to evict squatters, not to die in a shootout with the Reaper. Sheriff, Cole continued, you can try to enforce a civil writ on a married woman, which will get thrown out by a circuit judge in a month. Or you can turn around and ride away. But if you draw that gun, make your peace with God. Sheriff Miller looked at Gantry, then at Cole's unblinking stare. He looked at Lynn, who stood proud and unafraid. The writ specifies Lynn Way, the sheriff muttered. If she's married. It complicates the jurisdiction. I can't seize a man's wife without a federal order. You coward! Gantry shrieked. I pay your salary. I ain't paid enough to die, Mr. Gantry, the sheriff said. He tipped his hat to Cole. Mr. Riker. Mrs. Riker. Good day. You get back here. Gantry screamed as the sheriff turned his horse. Cole shifted his aim to Gantry's chest. Looks like you're out of friends, Bartholomew. Now, get off my land. And if I ever see you near my family again, I won't wait for a warrant. Gantry stared at the black bore of the rifle. He saw the death in Cole's eyes. With a snarl of impotent rage, he spurred his horse and galloped away, snow flying in his wake. Cole watched them go until they were just specks against the white mountains. Only then did he lower the rifle. He let out a long breath and turned to Lynn. It's over, he said. For now, Lynn said. But we are safe. She looked at him, really looked at him. The man who had bought her to save her, the man who had married her to protect her. Thank you, she said. Husband. Cole smiled, a rare, genuine expression that transformed his harsh face. Let's go inside, wife. It's cold. Years passed, and the snows of that terrible winter melted into the green of spring. The Riker ranch flourished. They raised horses that were the envy of the territory. Mai grew up calling Cole Barber. She learned to ride before she could read, sitting tall in the saddle in front of the former gunslinger who treated her like a princess. And the marriage that began as a desperate strategy became something else entirely. It was found in the quiet moments, Cole brushing Lynn's hair by the firelight, Lynn mending Cole's shirts with intricate embroidery, the two of them sitting on the porch watching the sun set over the mountains they claimed together. One evening, 5 years later, they sat on that porch. A young boy, their son Thomas, chased Mai through the tall grass. Cole took Lynn's hand. His knuckles were scarred, but his grip was gentle. You know, Cole said, watching the children. I used to think my life was over before I walked into that courthouse. I thought I was just waiting to die. Lynn squeezed his hand. And I thought I was already dead. I made a promise that day, Cole said quietly. To be father and husband both. I didn't know then how much I would need it. How much I would need you. We saved each other, Lynn said, resting her head on his shoulder. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of violet and gold. The gunslinger and the widow sat in the silence, no longer afraid of the winter, for they had built a fire that would never go out.